The novel Native Son by Richard Wright follows the story of a young black man named Bigger Thomas. Bigger denies the life of crime and attempts to have a stable job as a chauffeur for his landlord, Mr. Dalton. Mary Dalton, his daughter, wants to go out for a night on the town with her boyfriend Jan. Mary dislikes the social taboos of race, so they go to a restaurant in the South Side. They all have a few drinks and get obscenely drunk. After dropping Jan off, Bigger and Mary return to her house. Things escalate, and they end up in her bed and kissing. Her blind mother walks in, and Bigger tries to quiet Mary down by putting a pillow over her mouth. She gets smothered and dies. He burns her body in the fireplace, hoping to dispose of the evidence, and resumes his role as a, quote, timid, ignorant black servant unable to commit such an act. The bones are found, and Bigger disappears to his girlfriend Bessie. Eventually, Bigger is found out, and Mary's boyfriend, Jan, has a lawyer friend who defends him in court free of charge. However, he is given the verdict of guilty and the punishment of death. The outcome of this novel would have been largely different if it had not been set in early 1930s America.
I've been working here 20 years myself.
Yes, sir.
You know, Mr. Dalton's done a lot for your people.
My people?
My daughter Mary.
How do you do, Bigger?
You drove her to school? Come on, boy. I asked you a question.
Bigger, I want you to turn there.
But, man, that's not the way to go to school.
Yes, but I'm not going to school.
Man?
A powerful and haunting story.
Bigger, I want you to meet Jan. Jan, this is Bigger Thomas.
How are you, Bigger? Afterwards, you drove him home?
Yes, sir.
How drunk was Miss Dalton?
She passed out, sir.
But you did not expect that he would go so far as to...
Objection! I mean, I did not expect anything. What have I done to you?
Please, I know I ain't got no place with you. I know. But please, ma'am, don't let them kill my boy.
He was just an ordinary colored boy. He could do anything so horrible.
Objection, Your Honor!
He is the objection, if you ask me.
He wants to help you.
I don't want to see nobody.
Bigger, he'll save your life.
All you had to do was tell the truth.
Wouldn't have made no difference.
Native Son from Cinecom Pictures.
He was confident. During the last day and night, new fears had come, but new feelings had helped to allay those fears. The moment when he had stood above Mary's bed and found that she was dead, the fear of electrocution had entered his flesh and blood. But at home, at the breakfast table, with his mother and sister and brother, seeing how blind they were, and overhearing Peggy and Mrs. Dalton talking in the kitchen, a new feeling had been born in him, a feeling that all but blotted out the fear of death. As long as he moved carefully and knew what he was about, he could handle things, he thought. As long as he could take life into his own hands and dispose of it as he pleased, as long as he could decide just when and where he would run to, he need not be afraid. He felt that he had his destiny in his grasp. He was more alive than he could ever remember having been. His mind and attention were pointed, focused towards a goal. For the first time in his life, he moved consciously between the two sharply defined poles. He was moving away from the threatening penalty of death, from the death-like times that had brought him the tightness and hotness in his chest, and he was moving toward that sense of fullness he had so often but inadequately felt in magazines and movies. The shame and fear and hate which Mary and Jan and Mr. Dalton and that huge rich house had made rise so hard and hot in him had now cooled and softened. Had he not done what they thought he never could? His being black and at the bottom of the world was something which he could take with a newborn strength. What his knife and gun had once meant to him, his knowledge of having secretly murdered Mary now meant. No matter how they laughed at him, for his being black and clown-like, he could look them in the eye and not feel angry. The feeling of being always enclosed in the stifling embrace of an invisible force had gone from him. In this main quote, Bigger uses imagery and assumption. Imagery to describe his transition from the fear of electrocution to the fullness he got from magazines. Assumption in the way that he assumes the Dalton family sees him as black and clown-like. The latter of the two uses of rhetorical devices help emphasize the issue of race which weighs heavily throughout the novel.